Our first reading today comes from the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 5, verses 3 to 8 and 11. For I handed on to you as of first importance what I in turn had received, that Christ died for our sins in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. Then he appeared to more than 500 brothers and sisters at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have died. Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles. Last of all, as to one untimely born, he appeared also to me. Whether it was I or they, so we proclaim, and so you have come to believe. Our second reading is from the book of John, chapter 12, reading verses 12 to 19, the resurrection of Jesus. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. They'd been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" When they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe, sitting at the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He's been raised. He's not here. Look, there is the place they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. May the Lord add his blessings to these readings of his holy word. We pray. Lord, would you open our hearts and our minds to what your Spirit would say to us on this most wonderful of Sundays. Amen. I've called this one step in front. It was dark as we were getting ready. The three of us had managed to get to the market the night before, just before everyone closed up for the night. We chipped in together and were able to get what we needed. It was an expensive trip, but we had to do what we could. We had worked part of the night putting the things together and getting everything ready for the morning. I don't think any one of us wanted to sleep in case we dreamed of the awfulness of the day. It had been like a living nightmare. What were they thinking? He'd done nothing wrong. All he ever did was help people. How could it be wrong to make sick people well and free people from burdens they'd carried their whole lives? He was gone now, and the chasm was opened in our hearts. A great yawning gap where he had been. It's like we were only just getting to know him, and then it was over, leaving emptiness and sorrow. My eyes were red from weeping, my throat aching from crying out of my despair. Each of us united in our grief, yet isolated in our particular pain. And so it was that as the sun came up, we made our way to the tomb. We'd not been there before and had to ask directions a couple of times. As we walked, we wondered aloud how we were going to get the stone moved. They weren't made to be moved easily, and none of us were overly strong. Perhaps there would be some men around who would help us, even some of the disciples. But as we got closer, it seemed as if the stone had already been moved. Maybe Peter and the others had got there before us and were already with him. Then as we walked in, we were astonished to see a young man in beautiful white robes, sitting where he would have been laid. But no sign of him. I confess that I just gaped. I didn't know what to say. As I looked at the scene, I felt icy fingers of fear begin to rise in me. There was something terribly wrong. I was sure we were in the right place, but this is not how it should have been. My mouth was opening with the beginning of a scream when the young man spoke. Somehow, even before I comprehended the words, I began to feel less afraid. Yet he told us the strangest thing. Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, this is the place they laid him. Now, most of that we'd already worked out for ourselves. I mean, we're women, but we're not stupid. We already knew Jesus had been crucified. That's why we were there in the first place. And we could see plainly that he wasn't there. The young man was sitting on the resting mat. It was the phrase in the middle that made no sense. Raised? What did that mean? Had they put him in a different part of the cemetery? Did someone steal the body? What was going on? Where was he? But then the young man gave us the strangest instruction. Go and tell the disciples and Peter that he's going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you. Now, I can't speak for the others, but when he had told us that he would rise again, I had just thought that would be the end of the world. The very idea of rising again just didn't make sense, although thinking about it later, he had brought several people back to life after they'd died. Look at Lazarus. He'd been well gone. I don't know how he could have stood the smell standing there in all those bandages, as large as life and smelling of everything a living person shouldn't. But no, it couldn't be right. There was something very wrong about all of this. Almost at the same moment, all three of us turned and ran, terrified at what we had seen, amazed at what we had seen. I confess that none of us went to tell the disciples. We were afraid they would think us mad. So we kept it to ourselves until Peter and John came back and told us what they had seen. With that, we told our story, and all of us hurriedly gathered our things and headed back to Galilee. We still weren't sure what was going on, but we were certain we wanted to see this through. I don't think I have any way to describe how I felt when I saw him. There he was, as large as life. I could tell it was him because when I looked in his eyes, he saw me. It wasn't the casual glance of a stranger. It was that light that said, I see you. I know you. I accept you. I love you. All without a word spoken. And as I looked at him, I knew that he had that same light for every person he saw. He's gone now, but he's still here with me. I don't know how to explain it, but I know that I am seen, known, accepted, and loved. And you are too. He is risen, he has gone ahead, and he is waiting for you. Seen, known, accepted, loved. May God add his blessings to us as we ponder the wonderful, wonderful story of Easter. We're going to sing together in Christ alone.